Oh, let's see. That went by fast. Did you just put your uniform hat on?
Yes, sir, I did.
You don't even need to have it on unless you want to.
I know, sir. It's just that
there's fucking Chevy with his uniform hat.
was having a bad hair day, so I put my hat on.
The poor guy. Well, that reminds me, shit. So who do we got coming? Again, this is totally not planned, as everyone knows.
Hey, sir, I got a question. It's Marietta.
Yeah.
So can I use my 2 extra credit points for helping you with the computer?
But those are legit. Look at you. Look like a fucking gangbanger.
Oh.
Is that bling? TJ, is that bling?
Oh yeah, I've always had these.
I was like that. Fucking the killers down in Mexico wear a crucifix and a rosary, so it's the last thing you see.
I'm trying, hey man. I'm trying to. Yes, I am. Okay.
Marietta, can you hear me?
Kinda. It's. Can you hear me now?
Can you hand me one of mine?
I see you back there, TJ.
No, you're drinking 805. It's a little white can. Oh, I'll try this.
1 second.
No, you're not. What? I was thinking that. I didn't fucking see it.
Okay, Fox. Oh, you're trying to set this up on the TV, huh?
Yeah.
Where did Marietta run off to? Okay, Victor, to answer your question, the final exam is a separate grade.
Can't blame me for trying.
Oh, I don't blame anyone for trying. I would do the same exact thing. Did you guys hear about, you guys know what's up with Mr. Casares, right?
You sent out an email to certain students. I didn't get one myself, but from what I was told by other students, he's out. He's sick right now, so he won't be there tomorrow.
Even though he came last week and he was talking in the class.
Well, what's that supposed to mean?
He exposed us all last week. If he knew he was sick last week, he should have stayed home.
Did you know he was sick last week?
Yeah.
That's my
No,
opinion.
he said he got tested on Thursday. Class was on Wednesday, so I can understand the confusion.
Yeah, I would be careful throwing that crap around, one. And two, guess what? When people get sick, whether it's from the cold or another illness, it's almost always done inadvertently. So what do you have for your plan tomorrow? What have you heard?
I was told that Mr. Fontaine would be proctoring the patho final exam.
Yeah, he's going to do the final exam. And Zabala, Fox, how long does that test take?
2 to 2.5.
Yeah, if you really like know it, you can run through it in like an hour and a half.
How many questions is it?
150.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay. So figure 2.5 hours for the most laggard. If you're struggling through it and everything like that. So it's going to be the morning. And then Gott, is Gott anywhere here? Because I can't tell with TJ's house party there.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
You ever see the movie Friday?
Maybe the new one or the old one.
The old ones, the good ones. Thinking fucking Smith's house is going to be called Wednesdays and shit, or Tuesday or whatever it is. So anyways, did you do your airway stuff already?
Yeah, I've completed everything except the patient assessment, like everyone
Okay,
else.
so Ms. Craig did the airway with you?
Yeah.
All right, I didn't hear that because she had bailed, and 2 people got to redo their IV tests. Who are they?
Andy,
No idea. I'm the first one.
Is that you, Victor?
Yeah.
What'd you do? Miss the arm or what?
It's a piggyback.
Oh, what'd you do wrong?
I just took too long and I imitated that I opened the line when I verbalized that I opened the line, but I didn't open the line.
I told you when you're testing with Miss Craig, there is no slack, none of it. So welcome. So we got the retest to do, and why I'm talking about this is because I'm trying to figure out a way to. I'm trying to figure out a way because about half the class failed by the numbers. And the worst thing is some of you guys failed. I'm not going to mention names, but you had the people who did well, like recalling factual stuff, like you basically could answer like a multiple choice on like, what's this, what's that. And then you completely like destroyed the patients and the scenarios. Again, not going to mention any names now, but we had multiple, at least several patients call fatal patients, people who actually died, just anxiety or hypervent patients, which is something that has been like a huge feature of this. And all afternoon since noon, my wife and I just finished an hour ago grading. So we've spent the last 7 hours grading. And her first thing was, I want you to pass a message on to the class. And when I said, why don't you tell them? You're the division chief, you're the region chief. And her thing was regarding like the heat stroke thing. She goes that they are, after that last captain was killed because the medics were proximal iatrogenic cause of death, being that they're medical persons and they killed a patient because they don't know what they're doing. That's iatrogenic for all of you that missed that. To us, for you guys at the test, I know in your mind, you're like, fuck whatever he's saying, I just want to pass the test. When I look at this, I don't look at it as a test. I look at it as who you're going to kill. 2 different vectors, I know. Like if I was in your spot, I'd like, fuck Richie, just I want to get past, it doesn't matter. As long as I get to pin a patch on it. And she and I look at it as the families whose members we got to bury and talk to at the funerals. 2 different perspectives. I take this shit seriously. Make it as fun as I can. I try to keep it as real as I can within the limits that I have in the class. So those sorts of process errors like in the test was like really discouraging. And we don't expect, again, no one to be perfect. Even Joanna, she made some dumb mistakes and everyone does on tests. So back to circulating where I was going. Even with a curve, say the high score was 87%. So we basically stretch, make 87% like the A, if you will, and then drop it down by 13%. That's going to leave about 7 or 8 people just based on test score. Mr. Casares' class, the typical fail rate is about 5 medic students. You guys follow me so far? And now it's a time crunch because Mr. Fontaine, everyone's really stressing at the college, wants to get everything wrapped up by tomorrow afternoon, get everything cleaned and everything like that. So the question is what to do about it. And what I'd like to do is engineer some sort of a retest, because I don't want to see people fail for making a stupid mistake. For people that just can't get it, that's another matter. But if you're making just dumb mistakes, that to me is like that's an issue, and part of it may be a comprehension mistake because you read the question one way, and that's also not to me a good reason. And because it's a new test, that gives it kind of a little bit of leeway. So if you take, for example, 6:30, we'll just say 6:45 is when you start taking your test with Casares. So 7:45, 8:45. What's his normal time? How much time does he allow you, Chris?
2 to 3 hours.
Is it 3 hours? So there's got to be a time limit that he has on there.
Yeah, it's pretty much until his class ends. That's how long you have. 9:40.
Okay, so 3 hours. So if we start at 6:45, 7:45, 8:45, 9:45, then we've got 20 students that have to do their patient assessment. And I will be gone first thing in the morning, at least while you're testing, because I got to go to get my own CPR research down at Desert AMR. So that takes us 7:45, 9:45. You do your retake your IV stuff. That'll take probably 30 minutes. So we'll say 10:15, and then we have scenarios, and that's 20 students, and we'll have 4 proctors, maybe 5. So figure a student every 15 minutes. So 4 proctors, 4 students every 15 minutes. That's 16 students an hour. If someone follow my arithmetic. Does that make sense? So if each proctor has 4 students and there's 4 proctors and nothing goes wrong, that's 16 students. And so we can figure basically an hour and a half to knock out the assessment testing. So that would take us to basically, let's just say around noon. So far following me?
Sure.
So this hasn't been done before, and I can't get a hold of Mr. Fontaine because he's dead tired, went to bed. He's going to be there early tomorrow morning. And so the only way I could see a workaround is have this same test. I fixed up the thoracic pump stuff, went through that again today. That's all squared away. And took out Beck's triad, the only one everyone got right. And that's what I'm thinking. And clarify a couple of mistakes that almost everyone made, including people like people that are too smart to make that mistake that I would not expect it. Is Chevy anywhere here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and dumb people like Chevy who I expect to make that mistake. So,
Love you too.
So that's the thought. And basically, because it's my class until I surrender it at the end of the semester, that would be the final. That would mean you guys have to stay until like basically at noon or whatever and take it again. I have to run another set of copies and do it. That gives you your second chance. I'd feel a lot better because if you fail that one, then pretty much, once again, this isn't a moral thing. If you can't pass it because you're just unable to, you shouldn't feel bad about yourself. That shouldn't feel like I suck or anything like that. This isn't some sort of stupid movie. This is real stuff. You just can't do it. You're not ready for it yet. But I would feel better about that. And I would hope you guys do too. All right. So that's my thought. since we obviously it's late at night, this is a kind of pull it out of my ass kind of proposition. What is your guys' take on that? Or we can leave it as here. It can push it down the grade. We're still going to lose students, I guarantee you.
Question, sir. So if you end up curving the test, would you only allow the people who didn't pass a retake?
Oh, you know what? That's a good point. That's actually a really good point. See, as I float this out here. That would be actually the best way to do it, because it's not the GPA, as TJ said when he and I talked before. It doesn't really matter if you get an 81% or 99%. That's not going to define you as a medic in the field. That just kind of shows your effort. Yeah, why waste paper and time on that? That would actually be helpful. So let me shrink this up so I can see something real quick. I'm going to show you the spread here.
So if we already passed and you offer the retake, we're good. We don't have to take the retake.
Yeah, so not everyone's here, but basically 15 of you passed and 15 of you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 failed. Some of you were just below water level and that'd be easy to scrape you up, but yeah, that's 14 people. You have to retest. Some of you are literally a matter of 1 or 2 questions off. Remember, it's 150 points or 150 questions. So it's like each question adds like a third, fourth of a percent. So regarding Chevy's question, that's actually a valid thing. And I know the class is pretty tight, but you guys got to kind of share each grades with each other. So I emailed you all separately kind of what you got. Even those of you that passed, you missed like a lot of questions. And it was like some really obvious ones. But I can't make perfection. I really do want you to know what's important though, as far as I can. So that was the first comment by Chevy. What else?
Sir, do you think studying for a test that we have tomorrow is going to give us a relatively strong chance of passing for those who didn't get that good of a grade?
It depends a little bit. So it's sort of like saying, if I work harder, will I do better? It all depends on the sort of work you do. So you can study a lot, but it kind of, I don't know what you do for studying. But the guys who can't kind of look at a scenario like, I'll give a perfect example. I'll just give up a question. Let me see if I can show it here. If you look at one of the scenarios, does everyone remember? Like the stuff with the eyeballs, some people got the hyphema backwards. And if you went with it, the smart people that didn't know, they just picked the same one twice, knowing they get 50%. The gamblers tried to pick the right one by pure guess. And of course, if you pick the wrong one the first one, you're going to get the wrong one the second one. So you lost twice as much. So little things like that can really help a few of you. But this is an example of critical thinking. And unlike the scene, you actually have some time to think about this. So this is kind of like putting you in a situation that's real. You want to see how well you do. So you get to I'm thinking of Zavala here. I was very impressed. You started off great. Then it's like you hit a depth charge. And then you got to the scenarios and he was actually, you could tell he's reading really studiously. Putting in lines, he's noting findings. So the 67-year-old, God damn it, where is the woman? Page go here. Oh, that's right. Spread it out. Okay, 76-year-old male with a possible CVA. On arrival, you find the patient sitting on the living room couch. Can you all hear me okay? So I'm trying to give you an idea of how to take questions, because this is very much how you do assessments in real life. This isn't trying to teach you an answer to a question. I could just give you the answer. That doesn't do any good because every situation is different. So he is awake and tracking with no evident distress. He's oriented and states, I can't get up. His respiratory rate is 16. It's clear, adequate tidal volume. Pulse ox is good at 98, pulse is 78. Skins are normal, and warm. Glucose is 103. Blood pressure is 146 over 82, and your EKG shows sinus rhythm without ectopics. So far, any vital signs at all that you could say are causing a problem? I can see you thinking both, so I'm looking at you too.
I was thinking of the skins. That's the only thing that popped out to me.
What popped out to you about the skins?
Warm and dry.
Normal, warm. So normal color, normal temperature, moisture, and warm.
Warm.
So to go ahead, there's nothing on that. Now here's the story, and this will go to a fair number. Per the wife, the patient took his afternoon nap. When he tried to get up, he lost his balance and fell back on his bed. So he fell, right? But he fell on his bed. So what is that telling you? You could pretty much exclude at this point with everything else.
Trauma.
Spinal precautions, trauma, it's all unlikely. These are actually all real cases, but they're taken from, in Washington State, a medic coordinator that put all these together. And so when he tried to get up, he lost his balance and fell back on his bed. Primary history, a right hip replacement 2 years ago. He's got a history of high blood pressure, no known allergies. He takes hydrochlorothiazide as a BP med. He can't move his left leg, and he can barely move his left arm with a very weak grip. So I know you can't see this, but if you got a story on a call, this is what you would get. And the patient tells you, I don't know where my left leg or arm came from. They don't feel like a part of me. His right side is fine. So based on this assessment, based on just the information you gave you, if the 6-step stroke screen, what would you find? The options were left facial droop, dysarthria, which is slurred speech, and left lower extremity weakness. Does anyone think that's a good choice? Okay, why? Because it made it clear he's speaking to you, he's articulating well. If he was slurring his speech in a written scenario, they'll have to tell you. Okay, and his face wasn't observed to be abnormal. This is the only complaint. Then the second option was nothing. His artificial leg, I forgot to put the word leg in there, is a problem, making it seem like a stroke. Which hip did he have replaced?
I think it just said hip replacement, right?
No, in the story it said his right hip was replaced 2 years ago. A number of you put down nothing. It's just his artificial right hip. If you know anything about hips, and if you saw that video on the surgery, if that artificial hip goes out, you're down. It's basically like another call. And it's just pain and disability. So this is, again, listening to the story. I'm not going to say who did it, but honestly, when I wrote those distractors in there, I was thinking there's no way that no one would miss that. I was wrong. So just like the cute belly, and no, TJ, you weren't the only one. Dixon, you apparently drink the same fucking Kool-Aid. So yeah, the hot abdomen. So the next option was left lower extremity weakness, left upper extremity weakness, and right facial droop. On the surface, that makes sense because if you have a right facial droop, you have a contralateral deal. But was there anything about facial droop in the story? None. And so finally, the last one is one where it takes a little bit of brains. Left lower extremity weakness, left upper extremity weakness, which has already been established. The fact that he doesn't know that his leg or arm is his, Like, have you ever fallen asleep on an arm and you feel like you don't even know what it is? All right. And left upper extremity pronator drift.
Yeah, that's what that one.
So if you look at it and kind of think logically, the fact that he's stating, I don't know where my arm is, and he has very, very weak grips, how likely do you think he's going to be able to keep that up? And remember, the nice thing is in a multiple choice test, the assumption is you're picking the most likely option. And the rule of thumb, there's 2 throwaway questions. But do you see what I'm saying? That's the sort of thing I can't fix. That's the sort of thing you have to kind of work out with your mind and do that same thing on the questions. And that's where paying attention to detail was. And if that's maybe you just don't understand enough yet, because that's also a factor. If you ask me an engineering question about a damn car engine, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. Pick whatever sounds good. And that same mistake was repeated with the Bell's palsy of the lower leg. Yeah, I made that up. I just threw together like 3 different conditions and put them in there, hip dysplasia. So when someone picks something like that, and this isn't, again, making fun of you, because all the test is designed to do just that. If you don't recognize that, that shows you're kind of lost and you're picking what sounds like the likely answer. And I know that because I've taken tests where I'm like, shit, I have no idea what the answer is. So I'm going to pick the most exotic sounding one. That's what a test is for. A test is another word for a screen, like I'm doing a stroke screen. The last kind of hint to give you is the very first ECG rhythm. It shows you a 12 lead with the 56-year-old male. Okay, the options were inferior STEMI. The question was, the ECG rhythm above is A, inferior STEMI, normal sinus rhythm, LCAO, or LBBB. I picked these because I've said this over and over through the semester, scenario after scenario, this year and last year. Which one of those rhythms is it?
I put normal sinus
put
because
normal.
I remember you got on me about saying, oh, a STEMI is not a rhythm.
Is there any rhythm called an LBBB? You can have a left bundle branch block with 3 different rhythms.
Yeah.
Sinus Brady, sinus tack,
Yeah,
and normal sinus, right? You could have one with the junctional because in the bundle branches. Is a left circumflex artery occlusion a rhythm?
No.
Now that may well be, in fact, the disease process, but the rhythm is what you see. You don't call in an LCAO, they'll be like, well, so what's a rhythm? So that was a kind of trick question to see how many people have been paying attention. And about 70% of you identified STEMIs or basically distractors as the name of a rhythm when they are not. You always start off with the rhythm and then you add modifiers to it. If it's a sinus with a left bundle branch block, if it's a sinus with an inferior MI, if it's in a sinus with whatever, first degree block, but it's always the rhythm first. So that's kind of the stuff I'm willing to give another go at, because that's a mistake. I get some stuff you just hear slang or you don't know it, but it's also meant to make you remember this is what is real. Paying attention and not making dumb mistakes like that. This is a 2-way conversation, guys. This is late at night. I've got a lot of hours left this night. So it'll be morning and some of you guys may be up too. So I don't know what to tell you in terms of answering your question, Bo, except to study the right stuff, but it's as much thinking as it is knowing facts and details. But if you don't know the facts and details, then it's hard to think logically through problems. But even that guy, the 56-year-old male with the unknown medical problem, 3 of you might remember him from last year, but some of the answers on him and another one were like, oh, just anxiety attack or HHS or something like that. And so one last thing is, Fox, I think you got you on this one here. When I say Fox, if I say this, only I remember your name, but you weren't the only one by any chance. By the way, those of you that couldn't figure out 18 liters out of like the breathing, if you don't know even basic arithmetic, I don't know what you're doing in the field. If you can't do 5 times 10 or 10 times 3, or you operate a calculator, it's really, this is something that is going to be a problem. But
Hey, what?
We're all like,
You're still working on that bitch?
I had to get out of the screen.
again, some of it's judgment call. The asthma patient, the 16-year-old. Do you guys remember that one? It's towards the end. He was the only kid, and it was a call with 16-year-old male with difficulty breathing. Upon arrival, you find a 16-year-old male sitting on a chair at a kitchen table. He's tripoding, is pale with suprasternal retractions and sternocleidomastoid muscle use. So if you've taken the time to pay attention in class to watch all the videos I spent millions of hours finding up and putting on the page so you can see what suprasternal retractions are, what tracheal tugging looks like, or you work in the field and you've seen someone struggling to breathe, or you've had asthma yourself and know what it's like, the picture is pretty clear. This guy can't breathe for shit. And he's sleepy. And whenever you have teenagers and kids that are respiratory distress and sleepy, that's like alarm bells. That's like nuclear tax lights going on. Because sleepy is a step before they code on you. That's where I talk about the head bobbing, when they stop even trying. That's, you've got seconds or minutes left. On that patient, again, I'm not going to give you the answers, but his respiratory rate is 16. His pulse rate's 136. He's hypertensive. His SpO2 is 82. And his CO2 shows a flattened waveform at 22. He's got a history of asthma. And asthma isn't something you just develop that day. Asthma's almost always something you've had for years. And in the case of kids, as long as they remember. He had wheezing. And I even showed you an ETCO's 2 strip. And plus, when I put this problem up, I was really hoping some of you would remember that woman that we spent so much time on at the beginning of the semester, the one who was standing, who gave herself the epi injector. Do you guys remember that one? I can see I can even see Barker. Are you standing up or sitting down? I can't tell.
Sitting down.
You're way back there. Okay.
Standing up.
She's standing up. Good. So right off the bat, what is the status of this patient?
Horrible. Bad.
It's bad. This would be a call that if you were running this call with me, it'd be like snap, snap, snap. This is what we're doing now. I wouldn't freak out, but there'd be no question the order of operations. This is a life threat. And especially in this dumb county where you can't intubate someone, it's even more important because you don't have a backup plan. So, Bo, do you remember how fast the IM epi worked on that one chick in the beginning?
Relatively quick, I want to say maybe 10 to 20 seconds on that video that you showed us.
Okay, so in terms of med administration, is that pretty fast?
Yeah.
TJ, would you get that fast of a response to the albuterol treatment?
no.
It'd take you that long to set the shit up and get it flowing. But I realize that on a call like this, you may be doing 3 things at once. However, my priority is always going to be a treatment. I will say, I need this first, this second, this third, and have 3 people working on it or whatever I've got for staffing. But the number one fastest, most effective treatment is going to be what? Epi, period. There is nothing better, nothing. All right. And San Bernardino City Fire killed a patient on the same way, 12-year-old girl though, because they were scared to give epi. Now, nothing says you can't do albuterol, but that's not the question. The question is, what's the first thing you're going to go for? And what's the fastest? And I think what is the most fast and effective treatment? Had I not shown you that video and us discussing it a bunch of times, because that's a golden video, that's kind of that sort of call, I would think, okay, you probably wouldn't know that. You can't imagine it. You haven't seen it. You don't really know. But we all seen the video. So I knew you had a picture. One of you put bag the patient. Yes, I'm looking at you. What are you going to do bagging a patient who has no freaking volume because they're all spazzed up? Do you want to create a pneumothorax? Do you think you're going to do a whole lot of good for them trying to force air into an already shut system?
No.
And looking at that pump, the thoracic pump, what will you do if you inflate their pressure even higher? You may cause them to code right then and there, just as if you gave a pneumo. That's critical thinking, guys. And now you've got one person trying to bag someone doing nothing, and you just lost a pair of hands in that call. So ditto for albuterol. If they can't get any air in, the albuterol is not a bad idea, but it's sort of like allergic reaction, anaphylactic reaction with Benadryl and Epi. Your sequence, your intention to sequence has to make sense. So any observations or thoughts so far? So, and then the last thing was, what is the first treatment you'll do or intervention, a treatment? And some of you put down, for example, obtain a 12 lead. Is the 12 lead a treatment? Okay, so it's back down to reading the question. At the very beginning, question number 1. Anyone remember what the first question was?
Yeah, it drove me crazy. It's still pissing me
It was a patent airway, patent airway.
So long before we knew anything about each other, back in July, I think it was, or August, when we met in class, and the only 3 people I knew, or 4 people, was TJ and Fox and Grillo and Zavala. And I asked you about how do you assess an open airway, had someone lie down on the ground. And we're going through that. And what was the whole point about checking someone's mouth and opening their mouth?
Can't tell anything. Can't see the airway.
Now, if I said, what are your first steps to opening an airway? Doing a jaw thrust, lifting their jaw is totally valid. But all you're doing is opening up the upper airway. You still can't tell if anything's open. So the fact that I think all but 3 of you missed that blew me away. And the question said, you can accurately determine if an airway is grossly patent, which means patent enough, with each of the following except.
I hate these questions.
I hate confusing questions like that. Absolutely stunning. I don't know if I can make it more of a riddle. So I have to ask you, starting with Bo, why you would put down snoring as not a way of telling if someone's breathing. As someone I know who slept in a tent or a fucking barracks with 5, 10, 15 other dudes.
Yeah, snoring is a way to tell if someone is breathing. Of course, the tongue's in the way, but you know there's air going through.
Yeah, if the tongue was occluding them, they wouldn't be snoring anymore, right?
Yeah.
So grossly patent. If I go to TJ and everyone else, they put phonating. Think back to CPR class and first aid class and a person with an obstructed airway. What do they tell you if the patient can still talk?
They have an airway.
They have an airway. Barker, I'm looking at you.
He's looking at you.
I got distracted.
There, I just assessed Barker's airway.
So the answer is auscultation of lung.
No.
If they're unconscious, auscultation of lungs will tell you, or if they're on a vent, that they have a patent airway, because how are you going to get air into the lungs unless you have a patent airway? Movement of air.
Opening their mouth is not going to tell you anything.
I just misread the question.
Yeah, Mr. Ray, 100%.
See, I think, honestly,
understand
Mr.
that
Ritchie, I think that was probably 90% of the issue was the wording of the question is what.
So reword that for me.
So
You make it clear.
I would say without a doubt, the reason that over half of the, well, basically little less than half the class failed the test was due to the wording of the questions. Guaranteed.
Okay.
Because I've had that issue before, and obviously I've had that issue again, but it has to do with the wording of the question and the way like certain people's brain works. It's not reading the question the way your brain is creating the questions. So we don't see the answer as the same because we don't see the question asking the same thing.
Okay, so reword the question.
So for that question is what would be a way to, basically what would be a way or a sign that a patient has a pain airway?
Okay, now write the answers down. All of those are ways except for one. So how do you write that question then?
But I think the part that it's asking the except one.
I won't buy that because that's a literacy issue. If you try to write that question, and believe me, if you write the question better, I'll take it.
But
if you try to write the question where you have 3 or multiple correct choices and 1 bad choice, you will have to have an exceptor, meaning an exception. Hence the questions that say everything but, all these except. There's no other way to write that question unless you make it fill in the blank, which is write me down 3 ways to confirm an airway is patent. Now you have memory involved and you have to remember what that is and how to put it down. So I can understand, again, you're looking at someone who just like you has taken a zillion tests, and we all have the kind of trick questions where basically the whole point of it is like to read the question, just like listening to an answer when you're asking a patient a question, just like paying attention to the right hip or the left hip. If you read the question, you can accurately determine if an airway is grossly patent with each of the following. That's very easy. Say, okay, snoring will help me determine that the airway is patent. They're making noise and speaking will help me determine the airway is patent. Listening to the lung sounds is what we do every time we intubate someone to check if the airway is patent. So I think that's Chevy. I can't be sure because I can't see. That is the very best I can do on the questions, but I can't make the question. I don't know how to make it any better. So if you have an idea to do that, creating an exception question.
I don't believe I missed that question, but I just know that there's been a few quizzes or tests where the wording is what messes me up, and I sit there and I think on it, and then I overthink it, and it's just the way it's worded, like the way you're asking the question.
I'll buy that. We all talk differently. So being that that's going to be the case, no matter who you take a test from, what do you think is a solution when your instructor's sitting in class the entire time you're taking the test?
Asking for clarity.
Yeah, you'd have to ask for clarity.
Yes. So that whole thing about communication is 2 ways. Several people came and asked me, I know TJ did, I know Victor did, Corrado I think did, ask me, what does this mean or what are you asking? And that's exactly what you should do. Wait, are you the one who when your girlfriend's mad at you, you won't tell her anything because she has to do all the talking?
No, I tell her.
Or do you go say, hey, let's communicate, let me do my part and freaking throw my own 2 hats and say, sir, I don't really understand what you're asking here. You're a nerd and I'm a friggin' dork and I can't get it. So can you friggin' clarify this? So your point's accepted, but that's always going to be a factor in any written test you take anywhere. And that's where it's unlike, for example, take an online test. you have the luxury of asking, what are you asking? What does this mean? Is that a unreasonable request?
No, sir.
So I'm trying to meet you again more than halfway, because anything that's ever bugged me in a test, like a really ambiguous or, you know, kind of crazy question, or one where all the answers are wrong, like with the pulmonary pump, guess what? Those are scratched off right away. You got all the points. I'm not going to quibble on that. I'm not going to argue about that, because I can see very clearly there's a point of contention there. And it's done, you get the credit. But on something like one, where I have a number of people read it and say, what the heck, what's so confusing about this question? And I say, well, Chevy has trouble understanding the way my thinking is. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, okay. So how come we didn't ask? Because what do I ask all the time? Do you have any questions?
But I think too, like for me, sir, I know on some of the questions, it's because I'm a visual learner. When I read some of the questions, like some of the questions on the test, I'm trying to visualize it, but I lean what I would think would be more of like a book answer rather than like what I visually see answer. If I can't visually see it, then I'm not going to put that answer down.
Well, that's a decision you have to make. We all have to make that when we take tests. So one last one. Again, it was really interesting to see like how well Zavala did in the beginning. You just kicked ass. I think you got everything right for the first 2 pages, which was one of the best. Other mistakes, I knew you'd make them. But this one's near and dear to my heart. This is the one that actually bothered Jen because of the criminal case going against the fire captain, which is why I brought up the whole heat stroke thing 1,000 million 100 times, is the question about what heat stroke victims appear like. And what have I said over and over and over again, almost till it sounds like my head's going to explode?
Unaltered.
They don't look like anything. They are behaviorally changed. CNS dysfunction, and they're hypothermic to the tune of 104 afterward. And yet on question 62, I got hot, dry, and flushed over and over again. Now, going to Chevy, I will say that D, which was the heat stroke victims don't look like anything, I can buy that. Like, you know, what does that mean? And if I was in your hotspot, and I'd be like, wait a second, you told us they don't look like, you know, they don't have a color. They're hot and altered. Question 61 said that. Question 60 or correction 63 says that. What do you mean by this? If I was taking a test, I would take the initiative to take care of my own ass and my own grade by making sure the instructor clarified what it was he's trying to say.
I get that. But I can't remember, sir, for those questions, was anywhere in the question, did it say that they were exposed to high temperatures for a long time or any kind of exertional stress? Because I think that was one thing that might have thrown me off if I...
Yeah, like number 67, where it says heat strokes occur only when it is hot outside.
Yeah.
You just have to read the question, Chevy. And it's a just like with Mr. Casares, although I don't see all his questions. If the fact is left unanswered, then the evidence is present in the question. If you don't understand, then ask. But the simple fact is external temperature only counts for about half of heat strokes. Do you remember that little detail? Yes or no? I can't see you.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. So if that's the case, how do you want me to answer that question? No, it was cold outside. Can they get a heat stroke? What do they look like? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. That's the whole point. And that is the primary point. So, so going back to the question about tomorrow.
Did somebody get heat stroke when it's 50 degrees outside?
Oh yeah, you know what the lowest temperature is for heat stroke?
Yes, sir.
Tell me, because I've said it in class, I think at least 2 times this year.
Yeah, we had a bunch in Korea in the cold.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you wait until now to say something?
I mean, I'm trying to be a sponge and learn.
Well, you should help frickin' Chevy because he needs some sponge to squirt on him. Okay, so 49 degrees is the lowest recorded heat stroke. The British Royal Marines, in that video, their case that they brought up was in the middle of winter. So if you had watched those videos and answered those questions and actually paid attention, you would know that. That's why they're there. Because the worst thing for a heat stroke victim is to have a medic come on scene and say they can't be a heat stroke because it's not hot outside. That's called iatrogenic death. The medic killed the patient. And that's how most heat strokes die. First responders, EMTs, who load and go instead of cool them.
Sir,
Yes.
this is Aguilera.
Hey, Aguilera, what's up, Slick?
Yeah, I failed the test, so I have a
Oh,
question.
I didn't know.
Yeah. So I know that 14 of us failed it, and I was kind of late. Is there any way you're gonna curve the test, or how is that gonna work? I just kind of want to know, because I was studying for patho, and then I mean, now am I taking this test tomorrow? Am I taking it a week from now, 2 weeks from now, or what's going on?
So again, good question and welcome. So I'm liking Chevy's idea of having just obviously testing people who need to take it. I still want people who fail those questions like Chris to remember this stuff. Because again, the test is just a screen, but it's more important that you are not a shitty medic. Okay?
No, right. I understand.
No, I'm
just
talking
scared
more to everyone, Robert, not just you. So
No,
the question was posed about retesting for the people who failed. And we covered a couple of key areas that were common mistakes. And now you have your colleagues that you can discuss this stuff. But I'd really like it if you guys discuss it, you discuss it with meaning and not just memory, just trivia. So what do you think about taking the test tomorrow, retake for the people who failed?
I mean,
we ever paid the assessment?
I don't know. I just a day I have to study for patho, and then you're just giving us like a couple.
No, I'm talking about tomorrow afternoon or around noon for the people, because at least 14 people that can take it. If I can talk Mr. Fontaine into it, because I can't guarantee you I can.
No,
I'm going to try to talk him into it, but if the class agrees, then it's going to be hard for him to say no. Again, it's not a guarantee.
Right. But my main concern is like, what if like I fail the freaking test? Am I just gonna get kicked out of the program for that, or I mean,
if you can't get into, if you can't pass this final, you'll fail this class. And for some of you, there's a couple of you that did really well in the test, but you're average because you didn't do a lot of assignments. You'll fail the cumulative. You have to do both.
Well, for me, I'm passing the class right now. It's just I missed it by 3 questions. So if you curve it,
where are you in that? You'd probably fit within the scrape, but that curve can only go so far down. And now it's like figuring out who to sacrifice. My personal preference would give all those people a chance. I sincerely doubt you'll do worse on the test this time. But
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't.
So what I'm going to do is let you think about it. You guys talk about it. Again, this is late. You guys have a lot on your minds, and I'm trying to meet you guys halfway. So I'd like to start around with just with who's present, since you've heard the whole thing. Miranda, what do you think?
So, sir, I'm a little confused. The test scores we received via email, are those scores curved or are those the actual grades?
Those are actual raw scores.
Okay, so I suggest, why don't you curve the grade as is, and then people who are still below an 80 with the curve retest.
Okay.
I think that's what Mr. Buchanan was suggesting, and I think that's a good idea.
I agree.
So now, okay, so let's go down to Jared.
Yes, sir. Yes. I mean, I'm on the same boat because if we're going to be talking about the curve, if we're going to be doing a curve, we should do it now, rather than testing off of the raw scores. Because then at that point, those 79, 78, 77, because I'm in 79, so I would be on the higher side of the curve. So I'm for pushing the curve before retesting tomorrow.
Okay, that was Jared. Melinda's just dropped in, so I'm just going to step aside. Bo, what do you think?
I think the curve you're talking about is great. I think retaking the test tomorrow, at least for me, I'm not going to sleep 1 hour because I'm going to try to memorize words instead of actually learn it to be able to pass a test that's in less than about 12
Don't
hours.
dramatize it. There's like 15 words, okay? You don't want to lose all your sleep. You won't do very good on the thinking part then.
I'm just telling you how it is.
Okay.
12 hours to study for a final is crazy.
All right, coming back to the Tuesday house party here.
So how would that factor into the January retest, which we were guaranteed also?
Oh, if you get the retest in January, it's going to be this test.
So they'll get a retest tomorrow and also in January.
No.
No. The idea is because
The January retest would be tomorrow. That's the idea.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Because
Yeah.
if we move the January retest now, then some people probably be on board, most of them probably won't, because I understand where everybody else is coming from.
But where I'm coming from, Mr. Ritchie, sir, this is Chevy. If 15 people passed and 14 people failed, if you curve it, that number is probably going to cut in half. So then you would maybe have like 7 to 8, maybe 9 people that didn't pass. So that it would be way easier to test 9 people than 14.
no, I follow that. The question is to do it tomorrow. I've already agreed with that. That only makes sense. Why would you test people and why would you want to test again if you already done it? So I'm with you there. The bigger thing is while it's fresh in your head and while we talked about it, this is not a major problem. There's a couple of people that are struggling with thinking, but you're not going to think better by January. And if anything has been historically true, once you guys go on Christmas break, your brains just flush down the toilet. You'll come back January and barely remember where Bangkok Training Center is.
People would have better of an opportunity to spend what time they can to study though, and study with other people so they can have like a new mentality, a new study way to better help themselves on the final in January than they would in 12 hours.
Yeah, Mr. Ritchie.
I got to 100%. Like if the people that after you curved it and you just let the people know that for sure didn't pass even after the curve, if you let them know and at least give them a week, and at least they have a week to prepare rather than just, oh, hey, you guys are taking the test today.
Mr. Ritchie.
If it's a couple days. Like,
Yeah, listen, I'm trying to pay attention to the background here. So 77.
Mr. Ritchie.
77. So if the most of the curve I'd recommend is going down 10%.
That would be 87 to 77.
And that would be 2, 4, 6, 8. I'll have to talk to Mr. Fontaine about it. So let me get a black and white question as far as a retest. If you're going to wait to January, my recommendation is going to be the test with no curve. Because that's going to be, as you said yourself, plenty of opportunity to study and practice and everything else.
Aguilera, how many do you have? Everybody over at your house or Dot?
Wait, what was that?
Do you have people over at your house? You or Dot?
No. No,
All
I'm
right.
not. I'm not with God.
No, we're just trying to figure out numbers.
I'm trying to figure out
We're
for
trying
the
to see
14
how many
people who
people are
didn't
actually
pass.
on here, so we
Yeah.
can get a
So we can get like an answer now.
majority.
Oh, well, I know that I failed. Teague failed.
We're not talking about
Gotti.
Aguilera. We're just talking about it like a majority vote.
Obviously, we don't even have a quorum here, so we can't really do it. I'm kind of looking for your
I
input.
just don't think well, the thing is, I would rather take this test on January if that's the case. Sir, I love you and I respect you, but I mean also the study guide you gave us, we only had 12 hours to really prepare for your test. I mean,
oh wait a second. I'm gonna have to same feelings in return. I've said from day one.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for reminding me of that question too. Day one, the quizzes that you took, the videos that you had from week one would be the subject matter on which you'd be tested.
Yeah.
And you had regarding the GI tract, the renal system, those were all done weeks ago and they're there. So
right, yeah.
I'm not going to make a tailor-made study guide for you, the study guides where all the stuff you had. In fact, what I did is I went through every test and homework assignment and quiz and video. Remember how I kind of moved them up?
Yeah.
As a basis. But DJ, can you hear me back there? Something I do need, Mr. Fontaine, let me know about that today. The quizzes that you guys took in class, the paper quizzes. Okay, we graded them. Any of those? The ones, remember every week in the first few weeks?
Yeah.
Okay. How many of you kept your quizzes?
I have most of us kept them.
About 3.
I have all mine.
Okay, I think it's like 3 or 4, I believe, because there was a couple. So by the way, as far as those being study guides, I need to get those because the college needs those in the files to complete the paperwork. Just the quizzes, okay? So the stuff that you took in class, where it was turned in and graded and then given back out as your study material, that he needs to have those for the files.
Are they at your house?
Can you get that word out?
Huh?
Can you get that word out?
Yeah, I'll get it.
So if you got a binder or whatever you kept your stuff in, just bring that in the class. If you need to keep a copy, we can make a copy so you can have it if you want. But need to have a copy in your college file. So please do that. Bring that in tomorrow.
Okay, so Mr. Ritchie, so that way Martin and I and the rest of us can figure out what to do. Should better explain. So are we putting up a vote to retest tomorrow or for January?
Instead of doing the retest in January, how would you feel about curving the test and just letting the people know that still didn't pass with the curve, that they have basically a day to study?
He won't let that go as far as another day. And I guess I'm trying to say, Chevy, and again, I don't know if any instructors ever met offline to discuss this at the end of the semester. So I'm again trying to make some sort of compromise without turning into a joke. But this isn't something that there's a lot of study involved. I've covered basically in this period here, like 80% of the question problems. The ones that are completely unprepared are not going to get ready in that time.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword. It's, you know.
Well, what I could do then, since there's no quorum, is we'll just leave it as a retest in January then. And we'll set the curve. What I will have is a test that I'll make copies of tomorrow. And if you guys basically in the course of the morning, because this is kind of a short decision. So I realize, again, this is a bad time to make the decision, you know, late at night and everything. Once you take Casares's test, We'll broach the question tomorrow, and Mr. Fontaine will make the final decision. But if you, for some reason, come around to thinking, okay, we drop the curve to the 78% level, and then everyone below that can take their test now or in the January, that could be, I think, resolved then. But if it's going to be taken, it's got to be tomorrow afternoon, like tomorrow right after.
We want the curve.
Okay.
I feel like Fontaine
And I know everyone who's up above 78 wants a curve, so that's the whole point. But I've got to try to be fair to the people on the other side too.
But I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
low for that if you curved it and the numbers of failures drop, and even if the curve only drops to 78 or 77%, and you give those people basically the option like, hey, we're going to curve it, you guys take it today. Me personally, I mean, if I was in that position, then taking it right away would be more beneficial for me than going to study some more.
I agree. And it's not, we're talking only one pretty low grade, but we're still talking like a 63%, which is not like getting a 40%. Most people are in the 70s. In fact, I think everyone's in the 70s, and fully half the failures are, 2/3 of the failures are at 77 and up. So again, we're talking maybe five questions, not fucking up the dumb, easy questions that you did. This isn't rocket science. To me, it's more important. Listen, I don't really get off on the grades. I don't really care. It's more important that you kind of learn something significant from this, that you don't make the dumb mistake again, okay? No written test is perfect. Chevy, I get you. There's always going to be a language thing, but I've studied in 3 different countries, and guess what I had to deal with? Language. All right. It just, you can find a way to overcome anything if you try hard enough. Coming down to just talking to yours truly. But on paper, we do have to have some sort of testing standard, and all the test is really serving as a screen. Are you basically decently prepared to go in January?
I think especially you going over like top wrong ones. I think it's best for everybody to take it tomorrow, with the curve. And if they scored below, they know exactly what they did wrong instead of waiting 3 weeks for getting the question.
What I will do, guys, is because I recorded this, so there's no issue of like you guys were here and the other people weren't, is I will upload this as well and kick out the link so you can listen to it. I mean, I honestly can't imagine if you listen to this that you would fail tomorrow, except for 1 or 2 people max. Because again, I've covered some of the ones that if you go through the test, I've already given you kind of some answers indirectly. And the other stuff is just read the question. And if you don't fucking get the question, Chevy, come and ask.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
I'll definitely, if it came down to it,
I'll drop the curve down to 79.1%. Oh, look, you're 79. So
79.8, sir.
No, I rounded up those scores. I already gave you the roundup on that.
79.9, Mr. Ritchie. So I can throw this out in our class group chat. Can you hear me?
It's a lot of back. It's like muffled or whatever.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So that way I can go ahead and actually send out a message for the entire class group chat. Would it be retest tomorrow with the curve at 78%, but you got to test tomorrow for those that failed, or retest in January without a curve? Is that correct?
Let's make it just one thing, because he's not going to go for one or the other. Mr. Fontaine's got to track this paperwork down, and the last thing he wants to do is come back in January and try to figure out what happened in December. I'm being practical. If I can tweak his arm into getting the test tomorrow, no matter what, it'll be better.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. So I can.
100% chance it's going to be better, but waiting until January is like making more work for almost a marginal to no change.
I got a proposition for you, sir.
Is that you again, Chevy?
Yes, sir.
$50 an hour.
I'll give you 100. Let's just hear me out.
All right.
Okay, so what if we went with the curve, right? This is one decision. So we go with the curve, anybody below a 78 retakes it. Is there any way that you would allow, whether you pass it on to Fontaine or not, would you allow people who passed and who are talking to you right now to review with the people who need to retake it before they test.
Well, I mean, that's kind of like group study, isn't it?
Yeah, if they agree to retake it tomorrow, whoever didn't pass, would you allow us time to at least review with them before
Oh, like in class tomorrow?
Yes, sir, before they
Oh,
test.
I was gonna say, yeah.
So if they agreed to retake the test tomorrow, would you allow us time to review with them before they retook it?
I could see a half an hour. Half an hour should be more than enough time, I think.
30-minute review.
I mean, that's what lunch
Yeah.
is.
So, hey, and just hear me, Chevy. Again, I have a lot of push in terms of I can get Mr. Fontaine to do something, but I want to make clear, I can't guarantee it. He may tell me, the fuck no, we're not changing stuff, come back January. So I need to make it very clear that this is my proposition, but I still need to clear it with him. So I'd recommend you do that. I'm going to propose it first thing tomorrow when I'm driving into Palm Springs. And this is going to be the proposal. And I'm saying it and then kind of repeat it back to me so I make sure we're all clear. I'm going to propose a retest for people under 79%, same test, and basically after lunch, okay? So that gives you lunchtime to do your shit. And I can hopefully sell it because I know he needs students to help kind of clean up the K-Lab and all that stuff. They got to do their end fall cleaning, put the gear together. You follow me so far? And so I could say that that'll still give them 20 something people in the class. And I just got to proctor. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 students.
Perfect.
All right. So that's my proposal. So what did I tell you?
So those 9 students before lunch will know that they need to retake it. And technically on lunch, we can conversate.
You can converse. Yes. There's no such word as conversate, but yes.
It exists.
I know. So that's what my proposal is going to be. And of course, you got to get through tomorrow's physical assessment testing. So, you know, it's like anything else. If you're the kind of, if you guys move smooth, if you're motivated, you guys have been, again, a fantastic class. Just honestly, my favorite class since 2016. Then it's going to be easy to make that happen. If it's turning into a clusterfuck for minute 1, you know, it's going to be like putting out fires now and trying to, people get frustrated and there's more of a tendency to just shut stuff down.
Yeah.
So, so that's a proposal. Does anyone have any, that's going to be the best proposal I have for you. And I think it's 100% win. We're still going to lose some people. There may be people failing from CASARS. We may lose people from the grade point average. But I can tell you this, anyone who fails from the grade point average with all the extra credit I gave, I'm telling you this right now, with those paper assignments, those are like hundreds of points. And it's kind of funny, after the test scores went out tonight, guess what I got in my email inbox? Wave your hand, Barber. Barker, rather. Oh, here's my extra credit. Well, that doesn't help your test. But it's just kind of funny. So the people who failed from the general coursework is because they really didn't try for shit. And there's a couple people I've seen. That's not any of you guys here that I could tell. Most of you guys have been working real hard at this stuff. And it's just, again, that's why I'm pushing so hard to try to get this retest done and with the curve, because I've never traded on the curve before.
Yeah.
We still have outstanding coursework that needs to be graded.
No, if it hasn't been turned in by the due date, so whatever's left, and I believe I put the tonight for the rabbit one, the bleeding one. So I think that my take on this meeting is I think this is fairly productive, and I think it offers a pretty good solution, all considered. So any other comments before you guys split for bed? And Bo, I'd strongly recommend you don't stay up all night. It ain't going to do you any good.
Can I turn in the rabbit one tomorrow? Because my scanner isn't working to send it to you.
Yes, I'll let you turn it tomorrow. I know you're kind of living fucking in Afghanistan West out there. So
That's true.
And
Case studies.
and that's it. So I'll send a link to you. Do you send out crap through group chat more effectively, right? I'll send the link to the YouTube video if whoever wants to watch it. Again, now I'm just making it longer and longer with small talk and everything. But and that way, in terms of studying, Chevy, this video gives pretty much most of it, I think, just talking through it. So but that'll be up to you based on what your learning style is.
Mr. Ritchie.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Andy. I have a question to ask you about for people who failed the patient assessment, are we retesting tomorrow?
No, I think that's going to be done in January. That'll
For
be
the patient assessment?
Yeah, but if you want to try tomorrow, but you're already done, so we're just basically, he has to get the numbers down. So if anyone's really shitty, there's going to be a retest in January. So don't worry about that.
Okay.
Andy Escalona.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to say this in front of your loving classmates. How many, you work on a CCT wagon, right?
Yes, sir.
So you stare at chicks and the nurses and load the patient in?
Yeah.
We're going to be good.
So listen to lung sounds. And second question, how many patient assessment practices did you tell me you had done last night?
Done last night?
Yeah, like last night when I asked you how many times you practiced your patient assessment?
Said twice.
Twice. Do you hear that, rest of class 22? You need to put a freaking pair of soccer cleats up Escalona's ass and get him to practice stuff. He has no experience at this and he really needs help on that. So you guys have been good supporting yourself. Andy, consider yourself notified. You need to make up for your weaknesses by training and using the resources you have, which are your fellow classmates here.
Cool.
And with that in mind, lady and gentlemen, I will say good night and see you tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Ritchie, sir. Mr. Ritchie. One last thing, jumping on what Fox was trying to ask you. Do we still have a lot of things that you still have to grade, like the Thanksgiving assignments, the case studies?
That's what I'm going to be turning to next, is doing that. I've got a lot of paperwork to do. The reason is because I have to read them. So if you write one paper, I have to read 90 papers. And I read all of them. So that takes a lot of time.
All right, just verifying because, we just wanted to have an idea like where our grades are, and we know there's still a lot to be graded yet, so.
Yeah, no, it's your grade should go. So what I would tell you, just a little COVID there. What I would tell you is basically don't get all worked up about your grade. Dixon did because I basically entered the assignment until the dust settles. But right now, as far as I could tell, none of you guys, because you all have been pretty much on track with turning in your stuff with little hiccups here and there. Don't lose any sweat about that, okay? But that's a little bit of a moving target because it's just the way the system works. If I put in one, it effectively it changes everyone. So I've kind of got to put them all in at once. Because as soon as an assignment gets placed, as soon as I enter it, say I put yours in, Zabala, and give you 50 points, now everyone else is showing like it's only got a 0 because I haven't put their grade in yet. So it's going to cause a drop. Does that make sense?
Okay. Sure.
So just chill on that. Don't worry about that. And I really do mean it though. Take care of your health on this stuff. Yeah, Mr. Casares is sick. Obviously, I just texted him now. He says he's doing his vitamin C and everything. And so I consider us very lucky considering the number of you guys have gotten sick or maybe near misses and no one's been jacked up too bad. So let's keep it that way. And other than that, pleasure talking to you and have a good night. Go to sleep, Bo.
Have a good night, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Love you, sir. Sweet dreams.